Hello everyone, I am Ted Simpson. Here we are again doing another crazy painting today. This one here is an original painting that I came up with several years ago, and I broke this one out and I'm teaching it at a class coming up here, so I thought I would just give myself a little practice and show you guys how to create a scene based off of whatever photo you happen to have or right out of the top of your head. For me, I need a little photo. I need a little inspiration. So my inspiration here today was from a class that I did with a former coworker, and she wanted to do a painting based on Multnomah Falls in Oregon. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And so I came up with a painting of it, and then we did it in the class, and I haven't touched it since. So what I'm going to do here is I'm using a little bit of black gesso, a little bit of gray gesso, and just a cheap old foam brush here. And we'll do a little bit of blotting too, like we did in the last painting. But for now, just for now, we're gonna try to figure out where the falls begin. So just a very small amount here on this foam brush, and we're just going to do just a little sketch, just trying to figure out something, an interesting outside edge. Very little sky today, very little. And that's basically it. Maybe something like that. I don't really know. All I care about is this top edge. And then, let's see here, the falls is going to come down, something like this. And the falls, I noticed here in our scene, is they're basically like a two-stage falls, okay? So we've got some falls kind of coming down like this, and then all sorts of mist and fog, and then we've got a slightly offset falls kind of come down like this. And you know, we're not really committed at this point to how much falls we see or exactly where they all lay. We're just trying to come up with an idea here, just a little indication. And there's going to be like another stage of rocks and cliffs and stuff. So this part here is a little further away, this part's a little closer. And you know, if you want to, there's going to be some background trees, some evergreens up here, kind of looming over the falls. Boy, I really put out way too much color. So a little bit of dark indications here. Just holding my brush a little bit above center and just pulling down little chops, little stabs to give some little tree indications. Will we see any of these? That's up to you. Not put any right at the falls. Maybe a little bit more. I'm just kind of having fun here. Okay. Maybe some taller ones, some shorter ones. I don't really know. And any of this stuff in here, I don't really care. If I don't know if I'll see it, but maybe we will. Down here, who really cares? Doesn't really matter. Now, if I just come over and pick up a little bit of the gray gesso, I can drop a little bit in there too. Maybe we'll see some light ones. They'll get covered up here when we do the sky, maybe some dark ones. Put some in here, put some down here, it don't really matter. Now what I'm going to do is take a napkin or a paper towel, it doesn't really matter. I had to rip it twice because it was a little small. So what I'm going to focus on here is just making a ball, making lots and lots of wrinkles. Okay. If you saw my last video, you'll know exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going to start with the gray gesso this time. I pick up a little bit of that color, I bash it around, and then what I'm going to do is just blah, 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 blah. Make some interesting shapes here. See, this is good already. I know I don't need to put out this much for my class tomorrow. Because a little really goes a long way with this small canvas. I think my previous class we used like 18 by 24s. Still don't really need that much. Now, I know, you don't know, but I know I'm going to be covering a lot of this up on the bottom here, but still, it's fun to mess around just in case. Just in case you like it better, we'll just have some indications. So this is just some sheer, I don't know if they're granite cliffs or what. I haven't really studied the falls specifically, but I just noticed that they were nice and bare and very rocky, very sheer cliffs. So, with a scrunchy scrunch of a new paper towel, I come back to my black. Oh, and try not to paint my hands. And I just want to dot in a little bit of black gesso here and there. Whoop, lost it. There we go. And who knows how much of this we're going to see at the end, once again. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Just goofing around here. Ooh, there was a little bit more than I thought. That'll work. Maybe you want to have a little bit more shadow on the sides. Doesn't really matter. How many times am I going to say that today? I don't know. Keep in mind, doesn't take much. We don't want to really throw up giant wads of color. It just takes longer. You certainly can. It just takes longer to dry. Any of these little spots you want darker. And there we go. So, everyone blow on the canvas. Just trying to dry it super quick. Look at all that wasted paint. Boy, I might try to scrape that back into the bottle. So, I'm going to take my paper towel here, just sort of drape it across your palm, and this is our test. You know, you want to give this, 5 or 10 minutes. Throw a fan on it. It'll only take like 2 or 3 minutes. But the idea here is with a perfectly clean paper towel, you touch and blot. Look at that. If you see some color, it's not dry yet. So I just blot off the excess here. Yep. That'll take away if you accidentally blotted on too big of a droplet. That'll take some of it away, but again, the magic of editing here. I'm going to come back in a few minutes, and then we'll get started, okay? So, all right, and we're back. That didn't take too long now, did it? It gave me time to put the paint out on my palette. We've got our titanium white, little midnight black, phthalo blue, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, sap green, and then our yellows, cadmium yellow, Indian yellow, yellow ochre. Now this painting does require us to use both our paint mediums. Require is a bit of a misnomer. We don't need to use the liquid clear here. But what I'm going to do is use it. Very, very little. We're not really blending or spreading paint so much. I've got my big 2-inch brush here, and I just want a little bit out there, the smallest amount possible. Really the only time we're really worried about moving some color, maybe down here in the water. Okay, so if you see a little bit of a shine on your canvas, oh, you've got just plenty. Okay, don't worry about it too much. And if you're at all concerned you added too much, just give your canvas a quick wipe, and whatever's left after that is going to be enough. What I do want to do, and I'm just using, oh my gosh, a speck and a half of the liquid white, probably too much there, and I'm going to spread just a little bit of liquid white up in your sky, okay? Just, you really don't need that much. And look how I kind of go over the tops of the trees there just a little bit. No big deal. You don't want to go too low though, just a little bit. Did I say a little bit yet? Very small amount. I can't stress enough, you don't need a lot, so let's not waste opening up too much there. Now, oh my gosh, I put out way too much phthalo blue. I literally couldn't get less out of the tube there, so the tiniest amount of the phthalo blue. Bash a little bit into your brush and just swirl a little bit up in the sky. Oh my gosh, I might have to do another painting. That's how little we use, and I'm just gonna have all that left over. I'm gonna clean out my brush, just swirling it into a paper towel. And then let's just soften it a little bit, little circles or crisscrosses. This is helping me. Now I know not to put out so much blue. Maybe we can all share this one pile. That's it. Look at how we got some distant cloud things happening here. Just the barest amount. And if it fades off down here, in between the trees, whatever. Super simple. Look how fast we can do this one. This is so crazy. So let's make up a color. We need some background color for our evergreens. And what I'm going to do is take some sap green and a little less Van Dyke brown. Do you see the ratio there? Let's see what we get. Just some darker green color. I tell you what, if I add just a touch more blue and maybe even a speck of the brown and a speck of phthalo blue. So it's mostly green, a lot less brown, even less blue. And look at that color. It's just a dark green. You know what? I'm going to add a little bit of dark sienna and a little bit more brown. I want it even darker. There we go. Boy, I'm really taking more time than I need here. I'm imagining you guys are painting along with me, so I'm giving you a little extra time to catch up. All right. Wipe the knife. I'm going to break out my fan brush here. And I tell you what, let's make a mess of tiny trees. Grab some color, smooth it out. Plenty of color up in your brush here. Let's see if our zoom is working, or our macro setting. Let me get this right on up there. Ooh, there we go. Look how much paint is up here in the brush. Lots and lots of color. Pulled smooth. There we go. Now, making these trees. Oh, look at how my hand is in the way. Let me try to move over to the side here. All I want to do is tap down like that. Bringing my handle over and down, I'm just tapping with the corner and making a quick little shape. I put in, some people might call it the trunk, but it's really really more of a guideline for you. And I tap beep 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 beep. And oh boy, I guess I got to come up with stories or something, because I'm just going to be making a ton of these. When I used to be doing a lot of live streams, this would be the time where I would ask the audience here to shout out some questions or requests. And I'm going to sneak a couple of little ones in the background here, just covering up a lot of this stuff here. These just really just take moments. I tell you, I could tell you a little story here. I look at my picture, and I'll show you a picture of what I'm working off of, my previous painting here. And boy, oh boy, have I gotten better with making my trees, if I don't sound too egotistical there. I look at some of the early paintings that I've done, and I'm just so dissatisfied with the quality of my evergreens. So when I broke out this painting, I vowed to do better. Ooh, that one was a quick one. Look at that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 taps makes the tree. You can have some really tiny ones here in the background. Make a couple in the foreground. And if you might be able to see here, just where I went over some of the gesso there, hopefully we'll still see some of it. I don't cover it all up. I'm gonna try not to anyway. I don't know, should I make a tall one or a short one? That's the eternal struggle. And I'm working my way towards the falls. I want my falls to be, let me just sort of outline it right there, maybe right there and there. Now you could have trees all the way across, like literally all the way, or you can leave some gaps here. I'm trying to see how I did it in my example here. I think I left a little gap just for the falls to stand out. Not really caring at this point, just as long as they're all kind of coming down and meeting together at the bottom here. There's going to be some bushes and little other foliage here. See, if I just tap and connect all these trees, then you can decide how many you want there. Little ones, bigger ones, tall or short, skinny or wide. But I do try to take care and make a lot of different ones, you know? We don't want them all the same size, and sometimes that line is a little fat, so just make it a little taller so I can, oh my gosh, I don't like that one. And the solution, if you don't like that tree, ooh, make it taller. Let's see if I can fix this one here. Touch. Oh, there we go. There we go. That turned out to be a nice one. Just keep practicing. I was doing a class last night, making some evergreen trees, and of course we start with all these tiny ones, you know, the ones in the background. I find it easier to make big trees, and I think my students did too. You know, you're trying to really sneak all these little tiny branches in there, and when you go to make big ones, you're just really just crashing the brush. And it just tends to be a little easier. It's a little more forgiving when you're making the big ones. Oh, there's a big one. Loading and smoothing my brush often. Okay, so just going to connect all these here. You can kind of see where I just used that foam brush and just created that line. And now, maybe there's a little bit of stuff growing down, but I'm not going to go too much yet. Just want to get some of that up in there first, and we'll come back and clean up the edge there. So, with this, I don't even think I put any highlights in there. These are just kind of silhouetted against the sky. Okay, and let us find my knife. There it is. And we're going to make gray. Okay, I want to have some white, I want to have some black, and I want to have gray. That's the color we're going to use for the rocks. So, a little bit of the midnight black and white. Scrape, scrape, spread. Scrape, spread. Okay, and we can play around with this and get whatever degree of gray we want. I do want some medium gray. So, you can see here I used a lot of white. There it is. But maybe, ooh, there we go. I want some medium tones here. I want some darker ones. There we go. Cut off a roll of paint. That might have been too much. I might have made more than I needed, once again. And all I want to do now, listen to that light touch. I want to drop in, just like we're putting snow on the mountain. Now that I'm looking at it, I think I want some darker gray. Just dropping some color in here. I think here I might have wanted to blot that a little bit darker with the gesso. Now that I'm looking at it. Just dropping this gray color in here. And feel free to come right on up. Cut off some of that tree there. Yeah, you know, maybe I thought I was going to use a little less paint, but maybe I need a little bit more. So that's easy enough to make more. Just take a little bit more black. Ooh, accidentally went a little bit too high there. That's all right. That's our happy accident of the day, hopefully. As always, we always do the darker parts first, all the deeper shadows. So drop some of that in there. Clean up the edge a little bit. There we go. Sort of closing in on the waterfall. Look at that, just kind of slathering that color onto the scene here. All right, now, if you happen to have some of these spots left over, perfect. We don't need to cover it all up. What I do want to do, now that I got the darker grays and all the other various shades of gray, I pull out my titanium white, very flat, and I get a little roll of paint. And now is we're going to create some additional highlights. So I like to just drop my knife here, let yourself get a little bit closer. No pressure. No pressure. Just let that knife kind of bounce. Let that gray color pull off the highlight. Don't force it. Don't force it. Okay? Not everywhere where you think there is light striking. Comes right off. Maybe a little bit more right there. Let there be some gaps. We need the dark so that the light stands out. Now again, there's some gaps here where there's still just that dry gesso. That's okay. If you wanted to come back and add a little bit of dark here and there with just some of the black or dark grays, where you think there might be some deeper shadows, drop them in. So, yeah, just playing lights and darks together. Finding the angle here. If you want to do wide paths, make your knife wide. If you want to do some little narrow things, just change the angle a little bit. Same thing on this side. Just figure out the angles that work for you. Everyone does this a little bit different. I hold my knife upside down. I hold my knife this way and that way. Whatever works. Whatever works. Lights and darks. Calls it goods. Okay. That's not so bad. Now, what I'm going to do here, I've got a little bit of this color still on my fan brush, and you can see some spots here. Well, I just sort of drop some of that green over it. Maybe there'll be a little bit kind of clinging to the rocks. Now, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can tap down. See here, I'm holding with my brush below center, and you can tap down to add some overhang, or you can actually push up and create a different look. Maybe they're growing. It gives a little bit more of a vertical feel to it, that they're growing towards the sun. And I'm putting these in these blank areas here. That's just the gesso. Focusing on that. That's the ones that we used to. And it just comes off and sticks a little easier to those. Some of it will come over onto the paint. That's okay. This is a thinner mix, so it should stick to any of the white. You pick out some spots here, adding in, if you want some growth, some foliage growing up in between the rock space. There it is. Simple, simple. So, to clean out the excess paint here, I'm just going to gently wrap the brush, and I just pinch the paint away. See that? Having a little bit of this color in here is okay. You don't have to go and clean it in the paint thinner if you don't want to. I think today, maybe I will add just a little bit of highlight to those trees. Just maybe here and there. So I'm going to take a little bit of the liquid white, pull a little bit of the cadmium yellow away from it. Let me come back here, get just a little bit more of the liquid white. I want to have plenty up here in my brush. It needs to be thin, but not so thin that the yellow looks chalky. It's a little lighter yellow, but not like Easter yellow, you know what I mean? I come over here, I tell you what, I'm going to grab just a little bit of that undercolor. I want a pretty dull looking green. So try the sap green if you want it a little brighter. There we go. And if you want to dull it down, I added a little bit of my shadow color. And take a look here. It's still going to turn out awfully yellow. So you might need to come back. You can even touch a little bit of blue. Look at that. Since I had so much blue, I might as well use some of it. Okay, look at that. A thin greenish color. And maybe a couple, 3 of these trees get a little bit of highlight on them. Not going to highlight every single one, just the ones that are standing out. Ooh, lost my balance there for a second. Whoa. There it is. Not every single branch needs a highlight. Just sort of dancing around. There was 2 trees. If you're having trouble getting that paint to come off, give it a little tap and get that paint right up on the tips of the bristles. That way you can come in here and very light little taps and it comes right off, like little frownies. Okay. Now, I'm going to change the color just a little bit. Maybe add a touch more blue here, or maybe some Indian yellow, it doesn't matter. Maybe some bright yellow. And let's tap a little something under the trees, either downwards or upwards, just to give some other grass-like shapes here to our underbrush. There's all sorts of stuff here. You're going to see eventually here, there's a lot of mist in our water. So there's a lot of things growing up here. Okay? And as long as it's weird and different and varied, you're going to like it. A little bit more of the yellow brightens it up, leaving some of the dark here. There it is. Now, same thing. I want to highlight some of this grass that I put, or whatever these things are, some cliff growth. I don't know if that's even a thing. Not sure what to call it. Let's just say it's just some vegetation. Letting some of the dark remain. Something like that. That's starting to come across there. Whenever you add things overlapping some of the previous step, it really starts to come alive. And some of the spots, there's not even any shadows. It just makes a little bit brighter effect. That's it. That's it for that section. That's easy enough. So, what I think I should have done, and this is why we practice, I still have that 1-inch brush with a little bit of that blue. So after I did the sky here, I should have taken my brush and pulled down just a little bit of blue right down my waterfall. Something like that. Not too much, just where we're going to see some shadows here, and the shadows will be a deeper bluish color. And while I'm doing that, Maybe there'll be some, well, of course there's going to be some water down here. I don't know how much, so we'll do a little bit more than we need. Just kind of a little indication of a pool here. The more paint you use, the bolder it will be. This is just the liquid clear here, so that color stays nice and true. Want a little bolder? Add a little more. Ooh, my bottles of gesso here are rocking. If they tumble, you're going to hear a noise. So there we go. We got some color in there. Now things are coming alive here. And let me clean that brush. Got my paint thinner and my bucket. Shake it out. Where is my beater bucket? It's all the way over here. Now I think what I'm going to have to do is give every student here 2 brushes. So we have a light brush and a dark brush. I'm going to take some liquid white and titanium white. Now the liquid white by itself is too thin. The titanium white is too thick. So I just need to kind of thicken up the titanium, or thin down the titanium, or thicken up the liquid white. That's what I should have said. Now what I'm going to do here is right up here at the top, not with the full face of the brush. I bring it over so I'm using the corner. Lots of paint in my brush. And I'm just going to pull over to the right up here at the top, and then drop down. I think I need a little more paint so I can get a longer travel. It's been a while since I've done these monster waterfalls. Okay. Now what I like to do, and these falls here are just one single fall, but you can see here where I just, anywhere in the middle, I just kind of over and down, over and down, over and down. It's like they're hitting various rocks and such on its way down, and they're creating multiple layers of falls. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Multnomah Falls there. That's it. Now, with a small amount on my 1-inch brush, I'm going to create some mist and fog. Okay? A little bit of this color, tapping in, creating some foam and lots of mist. Okay, there it is. The more you have on your brush, the stronger this works. Now the trick is don't go over it too many times. You want to see that brightness, and if you keep tapping, it will just keep getting mixing in with some of that gray and such. So get it up there, get it bright, leave it alone. That's it. That's it. Now, let's see here. What do I got going on here? So, let us mix up another color, or maybe more of the same color. Alright, I don't need any of this gray anymore, so I'm just going to move that out of my way. And now I am going to use some of this undercolor here, this green. I'm going to darken this with a little bit more of the browns. When things get closer to us, they get a little bit darker in value. So just a little bit more brown in there, not as much green, just a higher ratio Find the dark shadowy color that works for you, and I'm going to pull this down, not paper thin, not super thick, just so I can get a little bit more on my brush. My brush gets cleaned, just like that. And a couple of times on the easel there. So, I'm going to tap in. Let me see if you guys can come up here and see this texture here. Come on. Tapping in, getting the paint up here on the top half of the brush. And we're going to have some stuff, some bushes on this next set of cliffs. So, I just drop it in, one little bush at a time. A little bit more paint on my brush here, and it should come off and stick right on over the top. See how I just pushed some of that fog and mist, some of that churning backwards a little bit? There we go. That is about it. Now, before I do too much else, and I'm gonna highlight these bushes. I want to put some of that dark in there, and I'm working my way towards the second falls. Kind of ran out of paint there. Filling in. Oh, I guess I just did fill in, didn't I? There it is. Okay. Now it's time to make the bridge. Okay. So to do this, we're just going to be using some black and white. You can make this a number of different ways. Number of different colors, just based on the photo that I had of the falls. Black, and highlight it with white. So, let's see here. I'm going to be using rolls of paint that really aren't much bigger than like uncooked pasta here. A nice small roll. Now, how I make these falls is somewhere right about here. I'm going to make the top, and it's just a little touch going across, and just let it disappear into the foliage. Make them all about the same width here, something like that. That's the top. And I tell you what, I might need to use the small knife. Do I have a small knife handy? Apparently I do not. That's easy enough to fix. I've got my small knife here. Now these falls here, they have a bridge and they have a little handrail. So the little handrail is just not as thick, just goes across like that. And then we have kind of a little curved support. So it just kind of comes up like this and then down like that. Something like that. You look at the pictures of the falls and you'll see what I'm talking about. Go right on off. You wanted a little bolder on yours. Just these little touches and it comes off. There we go. So I also have this little short side of my knife. Okay, you got the long edge, you got the short edge. I'm using the short edge of my knife with just a speck of color on it. And let's see, just a little angle here, touching. If some comes off, that's probably good enough. Don't get too obsessed with this. We just want to make some little supports on our handrail. Just little vertical lines. So sometimes you stop, get a new roll. There we go. And yes, the tendency is to keep going over these again and again and cleaning them up. Try not to get too obsessed with it, but I understand the temptation. There it is. So that's all the dark parts. What I'm going to do now is come across with a little roll of the white, and I'm going to try to focus on the top parts of this structure and put a little highlight there. I'm actually using the white that has just a little bit of the liquid white on it. Just makes it come off a little easier. Wipe the knife and reload as often as you need to. There it is. Just want to sneak in the highlights. Don't even worry if it's not highlighted all the way across. And especially here with like the handrail. Oh, just here and there. If you see some bright ones and some dark ones, that's okay. You might want to do the handrail first. That'll avoid having to go over and trying to clean up under the handrail. See that? There we go. So we've got our bridge. Super simple. Not really focusing on any fine details there. And then I cover up the sides. Just come back here and dab over. Because all these trees and stuff are in front of the bridge. See that? See how it just disappears into it now? Let me get that. There it is. You gotta figure out what works here. And all this whole walkway, we don't really see the other sides of it because all the people are hanging out over on this side and then they go walking right on through. So all this foliage is covering up that unnecessary stuff. Okay. Moving on, we will, before I highlight any more of that, let me sneak in a little bit more of that waterfall, the secondary waterfall, the foreground waterfall. Liquid white, just a touch of the titanium white, and see that black gesso adds the shadows in there, and this is just the highlights. And then if you want to, you could add a couple of these little secondary bumps and lumps. Not even worrying about going all the way down. Why, you ask? Because we've got foam and such down here. So I'm just going to use a 2-inch brush I have sitting around here. And you see that? There'll be some foam and stuff there. Before I do that, I'm gonna move on. This is just, believe it or not, the falls are in the background here. We're going to have some cliffs now and do all sorts of cool stuff. Pushing those falls back into the cliff face. Okay, so let's see here. Before I highlight the bushes, we'll just do the cliffs too. Now, somewhere I had a large knife. So, since I have some black here, I'm going to take some of my Van Dyke brown and black, maybe a little bit of the dark sienna. Not really over mix it, just having some big piles of dark here. Pull it out flat, cut off a roll of paint, and let's put in some dark cliffs here. All this brown stuff here and there. Just slather some color down here, and it's okay if you leave some gaps. We're going to fill all that in with even more grass and bushes and trees and stuff. So I slather some down here, leaving plenty of open space. Same thing with this side here. A little bit of this sheer cliff action. Now on this side here, I'm going to come across, believe it or not, come across that waterfall in a spot or two. Just sort of mash this in there, some dark color. And we better get a little bit of that overflow in here. We'll get that up a little closer. Come across that waterfall a little bit. Pushes that water beneath or behind the rock. There we go. Then I'm going to take a little bit of my titanium white, add in some dark sienna, get a kind of a marbly mix going there. Cut off a roll of paint, and that same thing here, we're going to create highlights here in our cliff face. Just gently drifting over. Some of it's going to have more dark sienna, some of it's going to have more white. You get to pick and choose, and your nice marbly mixture here will make the final choices for you, you know? Just drifting over, creating some rocky outcroppings. Maybe a little bit more here. There it is. That one definitely had some more dark sienna. I tell you what, if I just take a little pure dark sienna, still had some white on it. That'll happen. Then, a little final highlight with just a little bit of the pure white. Let it hit a couple of spots here and there. There we go. I like that. Maybe pull a little bit more down like that. Good. Left plenty of stuff under there. The whole idea of leaving plenty of stuff under there is so that we can come back and cover it all with the vegetation, which is just more shadow color, green and brown. Has some dark sienna or black in it. Doesn't matter, it just needs to be dark. Really just playing with color. It's hard to give you an exact recipe here. So a little bit of this here, maybe some of it's growing here, a lot more on the face, and I'm just filling in some of those gaps where it's just the blank canvas. We'll figure out which ones are which when we do the highlight. And this just kind of comes right on down to the water's edge. There it is. See, it's really starting to come together now. Okay. before we do too much else, let's throw some mist and fog in there. Oh, a little bit of that liquid white. Ooh, I had some yellow in there, so I'm going to clean out the brush and let's just get some more liquid white going here. And just let it dance around here. Something like that. Some churn, some foam. There we go. Now, the fun's gonna begin here. We get to make lots and lots of highlights. So, let me clean that 1-inch brush. Doing a full clean into the bucket here. Okay. Now with my knife, let's clean some of this up. Might be able to use some of that. Pull some of that yellow and yellow and yellow so I can get at it. And just like how we put the bushes in, we use the top half of the brush and I tap. Look at that nice texture. Okay. Macro, there it is. So, lots of paint up in the brush, and we take and tackle this just one little step at a time. Let's see here. One little bush shape at a time. I want some yellow up in here, some nice bright stuff. There it is. And then I'm going to move over to my Indian yellow, just stipple, stipple, stipple. Lots of paint right on the tips of the brush. Let it come off. There it is. Now, if I just come over and grab a little bit of green and tap, 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 it mixes the color, thins the color, and loads the brush all at once. So I can do another little section here. Changing colors, now I got a little yellow ochre. Figuring out what color works the best for you. Which ones are your favorite? There it is. The trick is do one little bush at a time. Reload the brush. And then move on to the next. Sometimes you got to go back and get a little more color, a little more liquid white. You want it to stick and you want it to be bright. If it's not, if it doesn't come off with a light tap, you need either more paint on your brush or it needs to be a little bit thinner. A thin paint sticks to a thick paint. Now this is already, you can see here, kind of growing down the cliff face. Okay? As I work my way down here, just take it one little section at a time, one little color. Switch out the colors as often as you want here. Sometimes I clean my brush, or get a different brush. Figure out what color works and make some things happen. I'm running out of color. Now the tendency is just to keep bashing it on there and thinking, oh, I got enough, I got enough. Sometimes you got to stop and get another run of color right out of the tube and then continue on. Okay. Remember, that paint needs to be thin for it to stick. Look at that texture. Nice bright stuff there. And down here at the bottom, all of a sudden we start to get a sense here that this is all kind of flat stuff down here. I just change the angle a little bit. Add some things and notice how I'm creating a little bit of shadow by leaving some of the dark in between my layers. Okay. Let's get a little bit of, oh, there it is. One little section at a time, change the color. Any of this part of the cliff that's bugging you, well, now's the time just to cover it up. Add a little bit of yellow ochre down here. Should have had some bright red, make a little firecracker. So, we've got the bushes in there. Now I'm just going to take my white fan brush here, the one with all the liquid white. I'm just going to scratch around. You gotta give it a little push, create some splash. Pushing up, create some churn, and then a little sideways blends it out. Cover up some of this here. Now a little bit of this color gets underneath, it's okay. It just adds like deeper shadows in your water. Looks a little wild, doesn't it? Lots of churn and burn happening here. And you can go over this, well, you can go over it a lot, but at some point here you're gonna lose that deep blue. If everything's white, then it's hard to see the shadow. So know when to stop here, and I think I might be already past that point. One of the ways here I like to add a little bit of final detail. If I have some of this on my brush and just a clean knife, I just flick across it. Ooh, it might not be thin enough. Just a touch of the liquid white. And I create some spray kind of overlapping the foliage here, up and around the rocks. Don't really need too much on that side there, but right here in the foreground, you create some extra indications of splash. Look at that. We got ourselves a completed painting. Nice simple way to create a painting from a picture. Experiment until you find what works for you here. I'll tell you what, I am going to take, what color should I take? Maybe blue, since I have so much of it left over. I'm going to take a little bit of blue, and that'll stand out down here. Sign this painting. Want to thank you guys again for your support. I'm almost near my watch hour minimum, so that I can start getting, maybe get a buck or two from these videos. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate your support again. I'll see you in the next video. Take care all.